Wow, that is exactly why you got to tune in each and every Monday. This was
Just five
of the 10 total tips we're going to cover on this show.
Hello, my name is John Convery and this is Michael, and welcome again. You're back with us at Retire Yesterday, Live Today. Our whole mission here is to raise your financial awareness to help you thrive in retirement, not just survive. Right, Mike?
Yes, you are absolutely right. And we got a special show because it's going to be a two-part show. So you're going to have to tune in this week as well as next week, because in total,
Gotta come back.
Yes, you got to come back, because in total we are going to give you 10 retirement tips for 2017. But today we only got enough time to start with 5, because 10 could take a long time.
It could take a long time, but let's start with number 1. It's what we love to call the discovery process, kind of the beginning of the diagnostic phase. In our practice, we call it the complete planning review, cardiopulmonary resuscitation for your finances. Maybe you need life breathed into your finances. I'm just saying. Or maybe you're a good steward of your finances. You've paid down debt, you've diversified, and you're setting the stage for an abundant retirement. Whatever it is, we still recommend, though, you do a complete planning review periodically to check your metrics to see where you are, that you're properly diversified, and diversification should ebb and flow, and the allocation to different investment categories should certainly change over time, particularly as you get within 5 years of retirement, what we love to call the retirement red zone. That's basically when you're like Peyton Manning, if he's on the 7-yard line, getting ready to score on the opponent. He can't call the 40-yard pass. He'd throw it out of the end zone. You know what I'm saying? So everything gets more limited. His playbook gets more limited. And so too is it true for you, my friend, right as you're getting ready to enter the retirement chapter.
Yes, many people come into the offices and they think the discovery phase is just having a portfolio. They don't really have a plan, and they've never really discovered how to put a plan in place. So number 1 is a very key metric, because you got to know the metrics in order to be able to get forward and retire the right way. Because number 2 is learning the rules of retirement, because if you don't know the metrics, you cannot take advantage of the rules.
If you don't know the rules, you can't possibly win. Now, we're looking forward to Conor McGregor and the Mayweather fight. Who knows? It's a big sporting event.
And they're going to be the rules.
They're going to be making millions, but it's all about the rules. The old Marcus of Queensberry rules in boxing versus the rules that are pretty much almost no rules in MMA, mixed martial arts. So it's going to be interesting to really see how that plays out when Conor McGregor comes into the ring to fight Mayweather's game. But the truth is, at least Conor understands the rules, and his trainers and his boxing or sparring partners have been teaching him how to use the ring, how to defend yourself in just hand-to-hand boxing versus where you cannot take somebody's legs out from under them. Just as Conor McGregor needs to learn, we all need to learn and discover, number 1, what the rules are. Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is see rule number 1. Now, I know that sounds obvious. You've heard me say it if you've watched this program before. And in fact, that's the first rule in my book, Conquering the Fear of Outliving Your Money, which I believe genuinely is the defining question that must be answered by this generation of Americans. So my friend, make sure you understand the rules. And we can help you with that, because the landscape has changed dramatically. The rules of yesteryear, how you used to diversify, are entirely different today. It's a different geography, a different landscape or topography. It takes a different rule book, and that's something we want to educate you about.
Yes, and when you know the rules, you could take advantage of them, because everybody likes to pay as little taxes as they can once they know how to do it the ethical and right way. So make sure you learn the rules, because if you do not know the rules, you are going to leave some money on the table. Because a great example is Social Security.
Yeah.
There's over 500 governing rules, and many people don't know.
That's right.
There's various options and ways to take advantage of.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Most people have the natural thought, and it's a sweet sentiment, you'd think it would be accurate, that you can only file for Social Security one time. It's not necessarily so. I've had clients file multiple times over a timeline continuum. There used to be a strategy called file and suspend, granted under the bipartisan budget deal with President Obama. It has been eliminated, but other rules are still available to help a married couple, for instance, claim more than one time, restricted application for spousal benefits, and grow your own benefit, 8% a year deferred retirement credits. All the theory or the thought behind it is how to orchestrate a plan configured uniquely and tailored for you to help you thrive in retirement and not leave money on the table, albeit when it comes to Social Security. But that's just one constituent part of an overall income plan. Social Security is not the whole enchilada. You need to make sure you look at what your non-negotiable expenses are going to be as you move toward retirement, and then the periodic things that you want to indulge in, such as an Alaskan cruise, to really reverse engineer to today, or set the target and work backwards sequentially to the steps you need to take today on your financial roadmap to get there. And that's what we love to talk about.
Yes, and that is absolutely why you need to learn the rules, because 76% of Americans are relying on Social Security as a main source of their income in retirement. And there is a lot of rules, and you want to be able to take advantage of them. Let's get into tip number 3, because tip number 3 really isn't much of a tip. It's just a good thing that's starting to happen, and that's interest rates are rising.
They are, yeah.
And that means the people that are saving are going to get a little bit more money back.
That's true. That is true. But we think Janet Yellen may moderate because inflation just came out markedly lower, and this has really befuddled the Federal Reserve chairwoman, I should say, and the regional vice presidents. What we're really seeing is a tight labor market now, with unemployment rates coming down to 4.3%. But there really hasn't been upward wage pressure that you would expect to see when you have a taut or tight labor market, because people are competing over fewer jobs. The idea there is that you should be seeing raises because people will jump ship and leave company A to go to company B because they'll say they'll pay me more, and listen, I become more valuable because there's fewer people available in the workforce. We're not seeing that real big time inflationary pressure, but Michael is right. Eventually rates will continue to rise. So you have to be able to make sure you ladder or can capitalize on that. A rising tide raises all boats. Therefore, you may consider keeping your maturity rates on bonds short, or maybe investing in things like TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. TIPS, T-I-P-S. They automatically allow your interest rate to reset with rising interest rates, so you basically can kind of have an offset to the diminishing purchasing power that inflation delivers upon you.
Yes, that is a lot of information. That is exactly why you got to tune in each and every week to Retire Yesterday, Live Today on Mondays, and make sure you tell your family and friends, because they got to make sure they are educated so they can thrive in retirement, not just survive as well. Tip number 4, it kind of segues from number 3, and that is to have a cash cushion. If interest rates are rising, that will help your cash cushion maybe bring back a little bit on the savings end as well.
No,
not a lot though.
No doubt. You got to have a certain amount of money set aside for a rainy day. Now, in a normalized budget situation, maybe 6 months worth of your household expenses, we would like to see you having a little flotilla, a reserve of money. I like to call it cookie jar money, in the ceramic cookie jar. It's there for 2 purposes: emergencies and opportunity. Emergencies and opportunity. But you can't live there. I mean, you can't take all your money out of the stock market necessarily and put it in the cookie jar, because you won't earn really anything and you'll die the death of 1,000 cuts. You'll just die a death slowly, bleed out slowly, because your money won't grow enough to beat inflation. Therefore, a saver pays a very high price for certainty, because you're certain to lose purchasing power. If you're 95, not a big deal. But if you're 60 or 65, you got to make sure that you can afford those price increases on 7-grain loaf of whole grain breads out at an organic place like Whole Foods, because the price is invariably going to go up. So we help you with that, but you do have to have a cash cushion for a rainy day and for opportunity, because when markets shift, as they invariably will, you want to be able to take advantage of deploying some of that cash into worthwhile investments that you can buy at a nice discount.
Yes, and that is exactly why when you take advantage of tip number 4 and build up a cash cushion, you also want to make sure you take advantage of tip number 5, and that is to stay diversified, because if you are not diversified, like John said before, the cash can just die a death of 1,000 cuts.
No doubt. Diversification may just be the only free lunch. And it is ubiquitous. See, Wall Street bobbleheads and pundits, the big box stores, Morgan Stanley, the UBSs of the world, the advisors and brokers, they don't agree on a whole lot of anything. But what they do fundamentally and seminally agree on is you've got to diversify. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, because at the end of the day, one asset may disappoint. That's why you diversify. You don't just own one stock, Microsoft. Maybe you own Microsoft, but maybe you own another company in the industrial sector like Caterpillar, which is an unrelated industry, so that if the industrials do well and Microsoft doesn't meet their earnings estimates and lags a little bit, hopefully you'll do well overall because of diversification. Now, we can't get into it in great depth here, but that is a key principle. You have to diversify. And one of the things that's a huge problem that I see is people think they're diversified. When we look at their statements, they're really not, meaning they're diversified in multiple mutual funds, but the top 10 holdings of most of those mutual funds are all the same. They're a mirror image. So, and you're not diversifying necessarily by asset class. What about commodities? What about gold? What about real estate investment trusts, master limited partnerships, or other things, not just the US stock market? Because of course, our economy ebbs and flows. It usually flows, but there's going to be periods of time where it doesn't do as well. So you need to diversify not just in an asset category such as stocks, which is one asset class, but in other unrelated asset classes, so that you always have the opportunity of doing well and having a good harvest when it's winter season in the US stock market.
Yes, wow, that is exactly why you got to tune in each and every Monday. This was
Just five
of the 10 total tips we're going to cover on this show that you need to know for retirement in 2017. So come on back next week for the other 5. If you like this show, like it on below, and also share it with your friends and family, because we want to make sure everybody is educated on their retirement so they can thrive in retirement. Not just survive. Like John always says, I'm going to get on out of here. Come back in next Monday to see the rest of the tips, and I will let John close out the show.
Hey, as I always love to say, folks, by the sovereign grace of God, we really wish you an anointing of good health. And in the paraphrase of the old Irish prayer, may the sun shine warmly on your face, may the wind be gently at your back, may the low road rise up to meet the high road. And until our paths cross again, my friends, may God richly bless you an anointing of good health, and have a magnificent day. Goodbye now.